thing, just.
Did you just say it and it happened?
Yes. I think you need to keep that up. And
Wow.
Oh, I enjoy that. That's good. Yeah. Oh, you don't have to.
No,
We kind of switched it up today.
Right, and so there's some criticism about the choice term, but I don't know why I was saying
You know, just don't.
Yeah.
So we have Missy. Can you hear us okay, Missy?
Yeah.
She does. Yeah. Okay, great. All right, well, whenever you're ready.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thanks for being here. First thing to come up is to review and approve the minutes from last month. So if there aren't any corrections or changes or comments, I can have a motion to approve the minutes.
motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? That's fast.
Missy.
And then we have co-directors reports.
Yes, we do. All right. We note take. Yeah. Do you want to tonight? No, it's fine. I won't get into our feedback for our note taking, but needs some work. Okay, so now we're into the co-directors report. We will start with the finance, I believe Lisa should be up first. Board budget report. Lisa will put it up on the screen. Those who are on. Yes, thank you.
I know the sitting as a parent community member too.
Not as of a half an hour ago.
It just assumes that there's one square.
Oh, the PDF version.
So the budget report, we are trending in all of the good directions. We are not seeing any spending that is unanticipated at this point in time. So that's been good and positive. There are some things we talked in the finance meeting about our staff development being over budget. A couple of those things are going to be reclassed. And a couple of those things are things that we have to consider moving forward that we just don't incorporate into our PD expenses. For example, new staff members attend responsive classroom training, and that's $859 for the full course for the 4 days. And when you have several new staff members like we did this year, you're gonna go well above your budget if you're just factoring in the traditional PD expenses. So that's something that we're looking at for next year, but definitely a conversation in our finance committee as well. Very new news as of today, the state had a calculation error with certain allotments, including Title I funding, which is 050, and 103, which is professional development, basically including teacher practice. They have not been approved. Nothing has been done inside the system, but it is looking like we will be seeing $29,000 less from this result of the calculation error.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So for our Title I funding, it was at, we don't see that here, but it was at about 61, 62. We're being brought down to 38,000. And the teacher quality improvement was going from 15 to 10. So I will have more information at the next board meeting about that. We still do have, as you know, right now we're projected to have a $44,000 surplus. But more impactful is the fact that we base our next year's budget off of those numbers, and we were basing our projections for next year off of the numbers that we were told were final numbers when I had the board amend the budget. So unfortunately, we're going to have to back those numbers down, and that's going to create a bit more of a deficit in our budget that we're working with for next year. So something that we'll be working on. We plan to meet as a finance committee separately to have that discussion because those meetings take longer than an hour and they need more time and devotion than our typical committee meeting in the middle of the day. So that's to come. We're on track in terms of planning. We're meeting as a leadership team to talk about curriculum and PD expenses and technology so that we can have more realistic numbers and have the budget really reflect what we think we should be encountering for next year. This year was really a calibration year because of the drop of ESSER funding and just getting used to what our typical spending should be. So we're not in a bad place with the budget, but unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about calculation errors. So that's where we are. Any questions on that? Okay. Moving right along. The Medicaid billing. So I just wanted to give you an update. No voting is necessary. We are contracting with a company that is doing all of that legwork and paperwork for us, and they collect 15%. But we are standing, it's really no risk involved at all. We're just hoping to be able to bill for Medicaid for certain BC services, certain healthcare services for those who are eligible. The company did say you could get up to $10,000 per eligible student. That's obviously on the high end, but our stance was we stand nothing to lose.
Right.
We would just have more money that we're bringing in for income purposes. Because we are one singular school, we are the program, so there are no restrictions on where that money can go, which is fantastic. So that could go into facilities, it could go into BC services, it could go into any number of supports for our budget. So more to come on that. Right now, we're setting up the NPI numbers, we're setting up all kinds of state and federal accounts that need to be set up.
Do you have
And
a
then-
credential for that?
Pardon?
Do you have a credential?
You have to have a certain position within the school system, and then you apply for the NPI. So for example, the nurse, registered nurse is what she signed up for. I forget what the title is, but it's school administrator. You know, I just have an account from a finance perspective. I'm obviously not providing a service. OTPTC, they already are in the NPI. They have NPI IDs, they are working within the system, and that's largely what our billing will be. It's like your contracted student services for those that need those services, so. That's all I have on that right now, so I anticipate that we'll have more. The only challenge that we're seeing right now is how to gather that information respectfully. So what it's looking like is in our beginning of year paperwork for next year, that's when we're gonna start to do this. We can get all set up at the end of this year, and then by next year, we can collect that information, because right now we would arbitrarily be sending out information and notifications. There's really no easy way for us to collect the eligibility piece. So that's where we are with that. The balance sheet is for your reference. This is just something that's included in the board report, no change there. There's really no update, just so you have that in front of you, that you're able to review it. Then we move into there it is. Thank you, Lisa. It has appeared. It's operating on voice command. And facilities report. Oh, man, wish you helped me. I should have given you more time. I know, thank you, I appreciate that. Oh, that's tiny. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna read from my computer. I cannot see that. There you go. Yeah, I'll pull it up. There's really not much in the form of facilities. We did power wash the building. I don't know if you've noticed it looking cleaner. So that
Under the
was,
pollen?
that was before the pollen, actually. That was on March 8th, so now, I mean,
Now it's yellow.
now it's just yellow, but it's clean underneath the yellow.
All the kids commented on it.
Did they?
Like they noticed the steps and everything. They're like,
Okay.
what happened? I thought I was thinking of making it up until they commented. I was like, they must have been power washed. So
Yes.
you can see it.
Good.
Kids are sure.
So that was done on March 8th, which was an undesignated work day, so that was the better time to do that. Landscaping project needs are just being currently determined, including mulch needs across the campus. This is something that typically comes up. We should be okay, more okay than we have been in the past. It's an expense. Mulch is, for whatever reason, incredibly expensive. So, especially when you're trying to cover such ground that we are, but it is a safety concern for the playground. So we have to have a certain number of inches of mulch in order to meet the standards and requirements as well. So that's something that we're looking into and could be an expense coming up.
It is very slippery out there.
Well, and I learned of that today.
Okay.
The leaves are falling and they're creating slip hazards. So we're gonna have to do something about that. We're on it.
Yeah, it was just surprising.
Is that for the whole playground area, or is like which sections get the mulch?
The playground area is on both
Both
sides. We have
sides.
mulched in the past, yeah.
Inside the black kind of barriers.
Barriers.
For school safety, we had our Alice Family Information Night on March 6th. A couple of people in here were in attendance. While, thank you, Will, and thank you, Lisa. We would have liked to have seen more people. There were only about 9 people in attendance for that meeting. We did record it and we sent it out to the community. It's available on YouTube. The quality of the video is very poor, I would like to share. We try, but you can't follow me around and you can't see the screen. So it's just basically me and Ben talking in the distance, but sharing really important information. Thank you. We did get good questions, good feedback. It was a great dialogue with the families, I felt, and they were very positive. But we know that for those this information is not reaching, it could be startling and it could be something that, is difficult to process and understand if you really don't know what the school is trying to accomplish and how we're doing it. So our plan, of course, is to communicate a week in advance before we do the first safety drill. And this year we are just simply spreading out in the classrooms and doing no more, just to explain to the students more from the educational piece. Here's why we're spreading out, and this is why you really just have to listen to the adult in the room when there's an emergency. And that's the focus. So we're, again, slow rolling this into existence, but we plan to build on that for next year as well. And we do plan to hold these safety nights each year moving forward, and probably in the beginning of the year as well. Do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, no, just I think just the communication to ask the families that were in attendance how we could do better to make it accessible. We had childcare, we had lots of announcements, and so I think the parents were more disappointed than we were that there weren't more of their people there. So just trying to figure out where the communication stopgap is happening or the accessibility.
And then the safety team met following that event on our designated work day. We debriefed on family information night and the plan for all of the safety drills, including tornado, which will be happening shortly, fire drills, and our safety drill that we plan to have sometime after spring break. And that's that.
Banking recommendations.
Moving into the banking recommendation. So we did make the recommendation and we submitted the request, and we realized that our loan agreement and the fine print requires our major operating account to be held with Truist if we are to hold our mortgage through Truist. It's very stringent language. It is not common for this to be part of an agreement, but this is what we signed into several years ago. So what we are doing is we have $743,000 in a money market with Truist that is currently collecting 4%. And SECU, we have $272,000 as of this morning, I believe, and that is collecting very little interest. So we will be taking those combined funds and moving them over to First Citizens to collect the 5% interest rate that we were offered. That is time limited, and then we would have to reapply, but I'm confident that interest rate will be higher than what we have currently. So we stand, even if you're talking about a flat 5%, we stand to gain over $50,000 in interest next year with that amount of money that's put in that account. And when you do the compound interest, you're talking pretty large gains. So I still think it's the best decision. I would have liked to have all of our banking in one bank, but that's just simply not possible with the interest rates the way they are and the money that we would have to bring to the table for a new, excuse me, a new mortgage is just not fiscally responsible for us. So we're just gonna maintain, we're paying 4.45, I believe, % in interest. We won't come close to that right now in this market. So just wanted to give you all an update on that. I know you voted and we're gonna move forward, but it's gonna be more in stages and phases as opposed to all at once. Any questions on that? Bless you, all that pollen.
It really is.
Susan isn't been to it, by the way. Just want to let everyone in there.
I know.
She says yellow dust coming off.
Pollen bomb, I'm like, I'm good. That's probably me. Story from earlier.
Yeah.
So I do have linked, could you pull up that flyer? This is not going to explain much, so please bear with me. We currently have an increase in our insurance. So this year we were just above 30,000 because of the facility building insurance. We have gone up just about $4,500, a little bit more than that. So already we're at an increase in our insurance, and it really is based on your costs for, insuring the building facilities. That's where the cost is. There are options for additional costs that have been recommended that I would like for the board to consider, but I'd like to explain them first to the best of my ability. The additional cost, if you see in the flyer, is that up there? So in short, what the additional costs are offering is separation of liability at what your coverage is from the board and the school. So the board and the officers and the school would each be insured for $1 million instead of that being together, where if anything happens, we're up to $1 million of coverage for both the board and the school, if that makes sense. What this provides additionally is it's basically your employment practices where they're seeing the trends of discrimination, harassment, different wage issues, those pieces of coverage, it provides, I guess, a better base of coverage for that. And that's where that increase would come from, to separate out those amounts. I don't know what everyone's thoughts are, if anybody has any. What's that?
Glazed right over.
I would say get quotes. I mean,
Yeah.
because that way you,
Oh, we have the quotes. They're
we
they're
do,
listed
okay.
in that report. So we have, $34.99 is the CPP and the umbrella is the $1,061 additional premium. So together, you're looking at like $4,500 in addition to the 34 and some change. So that would be about $40,000 in general liability, as opposed to $30,000, which is what we're quoting this year. We do have a line that we tend to carry for the year. I haven't fully understood the line, so I've just kept on carrying it, called other insurances and judgments, just in case that came into play. I have not used it at all in the 2 years I've managed the budget. So there's that I think we could probably not have as a line item, and that could compensate for the increase for the most part. We already were seeing an increase anyway, and it's also market. Again, it's going back to appraisal, assessment, and what they're saying we're quoted at. It's all in facilities, nothing else went up.
Have we seen an example where all three?
Have we seen any? No. Right.
I'm sorry, I'm just curious.
No, not in my
Pretty
short
soon
time
for
here.
the-
I do believe there have been situations that have required insurance coverages. Our main claim is workers' compensation, and that's rare and mild for the most part. Again, that too. But the thing with insurance is, and I'm guilty of trying to sign up for every possible insurance because I'm always that person of, well, what if, it could happen. And yes, I need window pane insurance for whatever. So I'm that person that I need to be tempered here. I would sign up for the additional premiums, but you could never use it and you could be investing an additional $6,000 a year, $4,500 a year. We did incorporate the student insurance, the student accident insurance last year, if you all recall. We carried that over into next year. That's only $1,069. So it's not a great expense. And I do appreciate having that. That covers students who might get injured on campus. It's all funneled through their parents because of HIPAA reasons, but they have the option to file if they feel that they would like to pursue that route. That has happened once. So I feel if it happens ever even once, it's good to have that as an option.
Do we have the disclosures that outline like exclusions that they should have sent with us?
We have a 16-page document with all of that.
I know it's fun to read, but if you want to send it to me.
Sure.
Just to look it over.
Mhm.
And then did we float this with a few other insurance companies?
No, we've been with Utica for quite some time. I don't know how long we've been with Utica. I think this area in particular, I was told is difficult to insure right now, and insurance agencies are dropping schools left and right because of all that goes on in the schools. So I would be nervous to leave Utica, but I honestly don't have another.
And I don't know
reference.
anything about school insurance programs, so I'm just asking the question, general terms for insurance, just because there could be other firms out there that specialize in education type insurance programs. Just curious, so we can have a comparison.
The other piece that they encouraged us to look at was the cybersecurity piece. That is if you get hacked and your bank accounts are taken over and you have to pay ransom and those types of situations. They are happening more frequently to your smaller schools and not your bigger systems. So that has been a trend that people have observed. We are covered up to $250,000. Our tech company felt that that was appropriate given
Their
likelihood.
level of security,
Pardon?
given their level of security.
And I will say, we had a meeting with the state just for monitoring purposes, and they couldn't initially get in. Like, they're like, oh, you really are locked down. So I feel really good about that. And we are actually able to monitor that from our end with a couple of accounts, and that's all free to us from the state. But that was another area that they encouraged us to look at, so I can get more information on that. The policy does start as of April 1st, so we're gonna have to make quick decisions regarding that. But, I can send you the information.
And you said the total increase in cost was $4,500?
With $10,000 worth of coverage.
This would be for the separation out from the board and the directors,
It's almost a potential for 3 million versus 1
$2 million.
2 million.
Two. So the board and its officers,
Would be a
I said
million.
directors, because we say board of directors, but the
Versus
board and its
everything.
officers versus the school. The school is covered up to $1 million, the board is covered up to $1 million. If we didn't go that route, then we would just have that $1 million, that's our limit, of coverage. And again, it's not to compare last year's pricing with what we could be looking at as the 10,000, because we're already slated for the 34,652. There is no option there, and we are covered as we should be in those areas. We don't really have a choice there.
Another question at the agent is, would a traditional umbrella policy cover a lot of the same things, and would it be cheaper?
We do have an umbrella policy.
Does it cover some of these items? Do we know? I'm not an insurance expert again. I'm just curious.
Neither am I. Which items are you talking about? Like it does not cover, so those that are listed,
On this page?
no. I will actually go to,
Like if there's a contract dispute or.
that is covered.
Okay.
So discrimination, different, I have an actual.
And I guess where I'm leading to, sometimes there's insurance products that are packaged a certain way that cost money, and sometimes you can get like an umbrella policy that covers a lot of the same things, it ends up being more affordable. So it's just, I know we have only till April, but just something to look at. Like if an umbrella policy costs us 2,000 versus 4,500, it covers the same things. To me, that's a no-brainer. But if it doesn't cover the same things, or it's the same price, then
It's coming, hold on. I asked the insurance company for a word to explain this to the board. I will read you what they sent. Carla actually intercepted me during this conversation. But it's taking a while to do.
I was surprised you could concentrate with the student. It's like, they just get-
Internet safety times, and we're gonna move that down below the director of education. So
we can
While
come
I'm
back to
pulling-
this.
right, while I'm pulling this up, Lisa, did you want to start with the director of education report and we can?
Okay, so as of March 12th, 2024, our total enrollment still remains at 402 currently for this year. And as you know, our enrollment, we can lose students right now, but we cannot gain students right now. So we are in that place till the beginning of the school year, but our lottery has been very healthy and exciting to watch new students. We hosted a charter renewal meeting, our first charter renewal meeting of our series, and want to thank all the members of our school community who were able to participate, teachers, leadership, all different people who were able to come in groups during that charter renewal, and had some really kind of interesting and productive conversations around our strengths and things we love about working here, but also things that we think are working really well. In particular, there was a few things they were kind of impressed that our staff feels really good about, like how our shared leadership model in general, but also how we conduct our faculty meetings and follow kind of the responsive classroom. So that was cool also because it's so like how we do things here. So it was nice to hear that compliment coming from a state representative, hearing what we're doing, right, kind of validating the practices we're doing as a staff. That process will continue because I still need our testing data for the school year to finish that charter renewal. And so that last piece of information needed will come out in the summer, and then we'll have more of those updates on the full charter renewal in the next school year. And there's a opportunity where you can read some of the feedback that was given. Yeah, no problem. Another, I think, really exciting thing we've had going on this year, I wasn't able to attend the first one, but our family education series, I don't know, Will, were you able to go? Yeah, it's all right. We had our first one in the point job. That kicked off in February, and it was a workshop for parents called Empowered Parenting. And it was hosted by Becky Andrews, who led through building good communication with students, with their children, providing support and information about building knowledge around kind of working relationships with the school with parents. Our next event is March 27th, called Managing Child Stress and Anxiety. And it's from 6 to 7 next Wednesday. And then after spring break, we'll have a whole series on childhood ADHD. Or ADHD-like characteristics on April 17th. So really excited. Our school counselor, Olivia Horn, has organized this, set it up, and really put up great marketing efforts to get people to attend. Those are all that event in February is also posted on our YouTube as well. If you missed it, or you want to send somebody there to hear about that. We're all pretty excited about our upcoming adult prom set up for our from our development committee as a fundraising event on Saturday, April 13th from 6 to 9 p.m. It is a 80s prom theme, and I know Sam has had a good time kind of finding pictures for those of us that are old enough to have been alive in the 80s, which would be me, but having some fun kind of digging out some of those old pictures. And are looking forward to the event. I know that the development committee has worked really hard and has found some really cool auction items that I'm excited to put out and see what our community thinks about. So, we know it'll raise a lot of money. And then just a quick note on our weekly community communication. We have maintained that community update each week on the leadership team to make sure our community is updated, and those most recent newsletters are posted on our website as well. If you have an opportunity to see those, you can always go back, and they're linked here in our board agenda, board of directors education agenda. Oh yeah. Continuing on to some other fun things going on. Want to recognize and thank the partnership for all their hard work. Last week, teachers were appreciated. We had some sweet cards and gifts from students, some flowers, but also food, and got to not have to worry about lunch last Friday, and also really stocked the teachers' wish lists with more pencils and paper and glue sticks and all the things that kind of keep creativity flowing in classrooms. So really, so much thanks to the partnership for that. That was a good pick me up for a couple more weeks before spring break for everybody. Right now, we have the partnership has the book fair going on in our NPR, and that's going on all week, including a fun family night on Thursday night, which is the family book fair night from 5:30 to 7:30. And of course, the Friday before our 80s prom is the middle school dance the partnership puts on April 12th. So that will so the partnership has been very busy and supporting us. So really appreciate that.
And next Thursday's STEM night too.
Awesome, love that. Oh, during the partnership family night, I love that. Great, awesome. Thanks, Carla. Speaking of another great partnership, we have.
Hop on that if you
Yes,
want me to.
please.
Okay.
Sure.
We met recently with Summer Lewis from UNCW's Watson School of Education to sign an updated MOU. It occurs every 3 years, so now we are going into 2024 to 2027 in our partnership with them. She did share an overview for our district, which is linked in the agenda as well, or in the director's report, with our partnership. It was just nice to see the number of students we've been able to serve, the number of teachers that have been involved in professional development through UNCW. So it was specific to CFCI, and it was interesting and really encouraging. We definitely appreciate their partnership with us. And in addition, we also met with Dr. Kim Cook from UNCW to talk about restorative justice collaborative at UNCW and how we might be able to embed and implement those practices at CFCI. So it's an ongoing conversation and something that we are very passionate about in terms of making sure that we are cultivating a community of respect among our staff, our students, and everyone involved with our CFCI community. So something that the work is just beginning, but you will likely continue to hear more about that in our work in that area as well.
Yeah, I think, Ben, Kelly, and I, and Kim, and Susan were just kind of seeking out more resources for how to help kids. And I think in particular, middle schoolers, it's been a long time since I was a middle schooler. So just trying to tap into some other resources and other methodologies. Ben and I and a few other us were trained last summer on responsive practices with the IRP. And so we got kind of our feet wet a little bit with the idea around that kind of work. And have started to kind of initiate that work with the staff, and the interest and the need is there. And so this is why that partnership, we kind of sought out more and more resources for ourselves, since this is still a learning journey for us as leaders. And so Dr. Cook has helped connect us with one of her master's students that will be able to support us, and she's offered to do a lot to help us kind of in our learning process. It's exciting.
Is this so it's the restorative practice and the restorative justice?
So she is on the restorative justice collaborative.
Okay.
When you think about restorative practices, it's like that umbrella term, and
Yeah.
restorative justice could fit underneath that term.
Sure.
But the work embeds together in a lot of different ways, and the practices in general. So she employs restorative practices in her work with restorative justice.
Yeah.
Right.
Restorative justice is the one where the kids are involved with hearing each other out.
They both are, I think, and again, I'm still learning too, but
Okay.
they both are involved conferencing and working with kids and talking about problem solving and repair.
Yeah.
And a lot of, my understanding, the small difference with restorative justice or uniqueness about restorative justice is that justice component.
Yeah.
That sometimes involves criminal justice, sometimes, so there's another element that we're excited to kind of just learn some more. I think that'd be great. I think that's a great suggestion. They're both really articulate. The grad student is working with Glow right now, and another school in the county. And I was really interested in that in a school like ours and our format and the practices we've already employed just organically here. So she's excited to see a school who already kind of does so much of this work and how to elevate it. Yeah. All of us are very jazzed about like another tool.
A little bit more.
Being
Am I going
blinded.
now?
This is almost being blinded.
It's above it.
It's above this tall.
Thanks, Sam.
That's our director of education, the report, unless you have any questions.
And back to employment practices liability endorsement. My email has loaded. School district and educators' legal liability covers most employment practices tort. The employment practices liability endorsement, which is the extra money, and of course separating that out as well from board and officers to school, covers the following features not covered by the SDL front and back. So front and back wages with no sublimit, mental anguish or emotional distress, defamatory statements. So those are the components that are more happening more frequently in the workplace and not covered under your typical traditional policy. So if someone claimed mental anguish or distress, that is not covered under our employment, school district and educators legal liability. That is the information.
Any questions?
I will also say that our representative is always available for a call. If anybody has questions, I can definitely put you in contact with him or reach out to him and ask the questions if you have them.
Is that something we're gonna need to vote on?
No, it's just an addition to an insurance policy, so I like to bring it to your attention because it's spending and it's fiduciary responsibility as is bestowed upon you all, but it's not something that you would have to vote on necessarily.
Okay.
So we would not necessarily have to call a special meeting to make that recommendation. But given that we're all part of the conversation right now, I'd like for us all to be aware of the results of the conversation. And with open meetings law, that would just require a quick, simple check.
I don't have any concerns. I'm just looking at it from the lens of, is there other options? That's it. So what I'll do is a takeaway that I'll ask a impartial individual I know who may have some insurance guidance in the space. But he may say, no, that's not my bread and butter. Don't know it well enough to give you advice, but he might be able to some free advice if he does know it. If you guys are okay with that, I won't share necessarily who it is or what it is. Just, is this something that makes sense in general terms for a school?
That, yes, I appreciate. The timeline,
Yeah, it's
we're
short.
not going to be covered.
Okay.
So I would say this is definitely a conversation that I think we should have earlier on here next year to determine if
That makes
we
sense.
want to switch or.
Well, I think if we sign up for it, we can always still shop it later if we feel like it's good or not good.
Right. So that's, and happy to leave it as is and not include that separate. Again, insurance is a guessing game and it absolutely has no logic applied to it. So if there's no formula that's
It always
gonna tell
goes
us
up.
we're gonna
That's
need
the
it or
answer.
not need it, we are covered where we need to be covered right now with mostly healthy limits. This is the one area that if you run into something and if accountability is applied across both functions, board of directors and school.
And that's the good aspect of it. How much do we pad our insurance budget going, thinking of ahead of insurance going up.
In terms of what we were budgeting for this year, not much, it hasn't changed over the years, very much. This is the most substantial increase I've seen to date. And we can trace it back several years in the portal. So that, of course, is gonna be incorporated to the dollar once we have the quote that we're going with, but it's something that doesn't have a very quick turnaround either. Usually that meeting was held about 3 weeks ago, and I was, things are explained and it's your policy's up. Now can we request a meeting in October? I think I would make a reminder to myself that we really want some more information this year and we want to find some competitive rates too. But that's just typically, we just roll into the next insurance year, and probably not the best practice either. It's just not something that I have spent a great deal of time on either.
Everything shut up astronomically this past 24 months. So.
Right.
I feel like that happened at like this last time and that all of a sudden it was this crazy.
Everyone's passing on inflation to you.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay.
Well,
Moving on.
some more information for that. And then the final piece in terms of what we need to discuss policy-wise. Number one, I would like to mention that we are not compliant with our student discipline policy as it stands right now with the requirements of legislation and statute. We submitted it through Epicenter for our renewal, and it does not meet specific standards regarding EC and specific language that has to be included. That makes sense because we've been in this very arduous revision and update process for our policy, so it's not something that concerns me. The thing that needs to get rectified sooner rather than later is this particular policy because it's required for renewal and it's due by June 30th. So that's something that I'm going to take a look at, share with the staff, bring back to the next meeting. I did ask because the due date says March 29th and I can't handle missing a due date. So in the system, it's going to say not on time, and that's going to bother me terribly, but all of them are due June 30th. So we are okay. It is not in compliant. It'll just be my own personal crisis. But I don't think we are okay. A special meeting for that. Like, I don't want to call you all back together.
We are okay.
For my mental state. So just putting that out there. I will take care of it. I will bring it back and we will vote on that at the next meeting. And we were given a template from Jenna Cook, who is the person that you all met with. She sent us a template that we can use to work from. So just wanted to update you there. And what is required for CIPA compliance, and that is all detailed on your agenda because I wanted to quote it correctly. In order to be considered CIPA, Children's Internet Protection Act compliant, CFCI must annually provide an opportunity to discuss the internet safety policy. So that opportunity is today at this board meeting. It is required to be publicly noticed at least 1 week in advance. That was published on our website, which counts as that criteria last Tuesday, and a screenshot was taken to prove the timestamp and the date for that. So we have met that requirement. And our internet
I understand. I understand.
You add things to lists so you can check them off.
Of course,
I totally
very satisfying.
I understand.
It might already be accomplished, but I still get to check the box.
Absolutely.
So the policy must address the following. Access by minors to inappropriate matter on the internet and World Wide Web. The safety and security of minors when using electronic email, chat rooms, which is so out of date, and other forms of direct electronic communication. Unauthorized access, including hacking or other unlawful activities by minors online. Unauthorized disclosure, use, and dissemination of personal information regarding minors, and measures designed to restrict minors' access to materials harmful to minors. If you look at the policy, you will see pretty much in paragraph form that it goes step by step through these bullet points and the reminders. For schools, the policy must also include the monitoring the online activities of minors as of July 1st, 2012, as part of their CIPA certification. Schools also certify that their internet safety policies have been updated to provide educating minors about appropriate online behavior, including interacting with other individuals on social networking websites and in chat rooms, cyberbullying awareness and response. So that final piece of the policy does address the fact that staff are responsible for educating students about appropriate internet use, safe behaviors online, and the like. So the policy does meet the criteria, but it is important for us to provide the public an opportunity to learn about our internet safety policy and provide us feedback each year. So does anybody have any feedback or questions about our internet safety policy?
But part of it says the policy must also include monitoring the online activity of minors. Does that mean it has to be a type of system like these type of the BARC one, or is it something
It can be that,
less? It can be less
and it
than
can be the physical monitoring and making sure through Google Suite we have opportunities to monitor. We do have plans in place to monitor more directly like we were with BARC. We also have this is kind of separate and apart, but an opportunity for the anonymous reporting system, but that's not connected to the SIPA compliance piece. Securely is, we just learned this week, is going to be offered by the state for free for every school. And what that service provides is the opportunity to monitor students' activities on their Chromebooks from the staff members. We're learning more about that. So in terms of that remote monitoring, that's something where we have to bolster our internet security. But we do meet the criteria as it states in the requirements at the state level. Any other questions or comments on the compliance? Okay, we'll discuss that. Check that box.
Can we add another thing?
And that's all for us.
Nothing from the exec board except thanks for Susan and the leadership team for taking care of the school and all that you've done, Susan.
We appreciate that. Everybody's pitching.
Great team.
Really been helpful. Appreciate that. Well, thank you all for
There's nothing
coming out
else.
for today. And we made it
Engineering
an
then.
hour. What?
Go home.
Oh, shoot, I'm so sorry. There was one more thing in my report.
See, she just wanted to add one more thing on the list.
Sorry. I would have gotten home and had a panic attack, maybe. So we got distracted by insurance and didn't go back. And this was just the continuity plan that I shared for the fulfilling of the director of education. So this is something that we shared with teacher council, but I did want the board to be aware of what this process will look like. It does include full board participation as well, so that's important for us to have in the back of our minds. But this details when the resignation notice went out, when we were posting, so all of that is done and accomplished. Now, the piece that's to come, the leadership team has reviewed candidates to date. We will review another time so that we can narrow the list down to our goal is about 10 individuals that we will bring in for a panel interview. The panel interview will include the executive committee, a representative from 4A, a representative from K3, and the leadership team. And that committee will be responsible for narrowing that pool down to 3 candidates. Those 3 candidates will then present to the board of directors, and what they will be asked to do in general terms is about the first 100 days plan kind of thing. You're introducing yourself to your school community. What does this look like? What are your priorities? How are you going to spend that first couple of months at CFCI? And then those presentations will be recorded so that we can then send those presentations out to the staff. They will have a survey to provide feedback for each of those 3 candidates. So they'll be scheduled far enough apart that we can objectively, I think this is important. You see a candidate in the presentation, you provide your feedback, that closes, you see another candidate. A lot of times it's just human nature, we compare, right? And when one is here, then everything, so honest, objective feedback is sent in, the board will review that feedback and will make a recommendation of the director of education. it's stated in here that start date is officially July 1st. Now that can be in flux. Ideally, we don't want the director of education coming on board as most of the leadership team is leaving because they are 11-month employees. So that's not ideal. We would want to work out a transition, but it's just kind of an arbitrary, that's the beginning of the fiscal year, so that's kind of where the date is right there, but we can certainly negotiate a start date with the right candidate. So that's the plan.
Recommendation would be by, it was hopefully by May, maybe,
Yes,
and possibly June.
yes. I think we're giving ourselves room, based on availability, right? We want to make sure everybody's able to attend these different interviews and make sure everybody's able to provide the feedback. And the candidates are available, right? What's that?
And run a school.
Right, all
I know, I was
that,
gonna
all
say.
that while we're doing that. So yes, that would be the ideal situation would be May. Special call meeting, of course, is always a possibility. If it's June 1st and we miss the May meeting, it's not a problem. If we get down to it and there is a concern for a meet and greet, I think we can revisit that. If there is concern that we haven't seen the candidate that has, really impressed a majority of people, I think that's definitely on the table. I know some staff have, I don't point at you, that's not to say
I'm
you
just
did.
here.
You did, some staff, San Francisco, may be concerned about that component.
I haven't
So-
shared it because.
Just share with friends. No, that might be a concern of some people, that personal element. It's just, we're trying to get as much feedback from as many stakeholders as possible to really have a well-developed process and get feedback from everybody. So this was the best that we could come up with.
Has the response been positive as far as it getting posted out there and?
In terms of interest?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten a good number of candidates. We
Yeah.
have, I think to date, we've got just about 80 candidates
Okay.
that have applied.
I call
They
it positive.
continue to come in. So that's why we wanted to go through one step and say, let's look at what we have right now. We're keeping it open. Priority consideration is March 31st, so we still do have time, and then we'll review a second time. But we feel that we've gotten a lot of interest.
Where does it go out to that creates that much interest? I'm like shocked. there's that many.
Largely it's through Indeed, but that link, it's difficult for us to track, actually impossible, because we send it out to NCA, PCS, OCS, to different listservs, to UNCW. I shared it, they would share it out within their community. And then the state applicant tracking system, it directs outside of the state applicant tracking system, it all directs people to Indeed. So there's really no way for us to run those numbers to determine where it's most successful.
It's interesting. I've had two people that I know in the education world who are not in the state of North Carolina who have seen it.
Oh, wow, okay.
Not anyone who's applying, just like, hey, I saw this posting, and they're out of state. So it's definitely making its way out there. in the-
So maybe
in the
being
world.
close to the beach is a good thing. I don't know.
Usually that's
And
appealing, yeah. So yeah, we do have some out-of-state candidates as well. We did notice that. Always nice to try to.
It's been interesting.
Cast a
hearing,
wide
like, oh, I
net.
saw this posting. I know you're.
That's really
you know,
good.
do you like, and so hearing me talk about, so I'm assuming they were seeing the same one that we had put out there, but
It's fantastic, though. I just, when you said 8 candidates, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, we continue to come in. So of course, more to come on that. And we will be consulting you all for dates and times and things that will work with your schedule. I think most importantly for the board at large is those 3 presentations, many people that can be present, because we need a consistent panel as well. If you can't attend 1 out of the 3, it's not going to create an objective, fair panel for the candidates. So we do need to have everybody at the table that can be. It's an important decision. Yeah, that was it. Thank you, Lisa, for the reminder. I do apologize that I skipped over that.
That one was.
Anything else?
Well, anything to vote on?
All right. meeting
No
adjourned.
closed session, nothing.
Okay.
This is how we do board meeting, right? So let's stop recording.
It's nice to have a shorter one now and then.